So we actually have some very big news that has just come out today that the United States and China look like they're going to start the negotiations as far as getting rid of these 145 tariffs on the United States end and 125% tariffs on the Chinese end. This is actually very big news because this might mean that prices are not going to go and shoot up in the coming weeks. What I can tell you as of right now is that according to multiple sources, the United States has a plan, but the reason why things are becoming a little bit murky is because President Trump is pretty much blaming China and Xi Jinping for the pandemic and kind of what happened there. So I'm going to break down all this in just a moment, explain what is going on and how we're likely going to get through this. But again, it's going to take some time. So let's get right down to it. Before I do, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoyed these daily updates. And now let's begin. So what in the world is going on? Because all we've heard over the past several weeks is China says this, the United States says this, Xi Jinping says this, and President Trump says that. Well, here's what's going on. Look at this. It says China hints it's open to trade talks. Now, this is good news because China is now open to the idea of talking about the tariffs and potentially getting them to either go away or bringing them down. That's big news. We are seeing protests in China. We're seeing protests here in the United States because millions of people all around both countries are upset that prices keep going up. They were struggling before and now they're struggling even more. But look at this. This article from today, I thought was very interesting. It says the last boats without crippling tariffs from China are arriving. The countdown to shortages and higher prices has begun. According to multiple economists, they are saying that the higher prices are likely going to happen starting in July. However, some believe the prices are going to start early, potentially in this month or in June. So we'll see. But look at this. Okay, I want to read this to you. It says China signals opening for trade talks with the United States. Here's the reason why I want to show this to you. Look at this right here. Okay, it says right here, the gesture comes as Trump has indicated he hopes to negotiate over trade and as the fallout has begun to show in China's economic data, with factory activity in April dropping the most since 2023 as export orders dried up. Here in the United States, we are not ordering as many products as we once were from China. The same is going for Chinese citizens as well. They're not buying U.S. goods when they have a 125% duty on top of them. But this is why it's such a big deal. Look at this. It says, if the U.S. wishes to engage with China, there's no harm in it for China at this stage. The harm is letting things sit and settle as they currently are. Now, I want to show you something else. I want to read this to you. It says the U.S. wants to start tariff talks with China, according to state media. Now, this is from Reuters. It came out today. Listen to this right here. It says, Besant mentioned no specific talks during a Fox Business Network interview, but said that high tariffs of 145% on the U.S. side and 125% on the Chinese side needed to be de-escalated for negotiations to begin. What does this mean? Well, this is what I'm talking about. President Trump is putting this on China, saying the pandemic was kind of your fault. So for you not to live up to the agreement that we previously had, again, that's on you. And he wants that fixed and pretty much resolved. Look at this right here. It says, this is from Besant. It says, I am confident that the Chinese will want to reach a deal. And as I said, this is going to be a multi-step process. First, we need to de-escalate, and then over time, we will start focusing on a larger trade deal. He said that among the first steps would be to revisit China's failure to make good on purchase commitments for American goods made as part of Trump's 2020 phase one trade deal that ended his first term trade war with Beijing. That's a big one. Okay, what happened in 2020? Look at this. It says that deal called for China to increase purchases of American-made manufactured and agriculture products and services by $200 billion annually over 2 years. But then the pandemic hit just after the signing. As a result, everything shut down. So this is what Trump says, that this was the agreement. You're supposed to buy more agriculture products, more goods, pay for more services of $200 billion annually over 2 years. Didn't happen. Why didn't it happen? Well, businesses shut down. Production shut down. Okay, we were at a standstill. The supply chain was absolutely hit and crushed. And so we were purchasing more products from China than really China was from us. That's where this kind of trade deficit really ballooned, is during the pandemic. And so what Trump says is we have to fix that. Listen to this. It says Bassett also said that insidious non-tariff trade barriers and intellectual property theft also would be part of negotiations over tariffs with China, adding everything is on the table for the economic relationship. What's he talking about there? Well, we are going to see tariffs potentially get reduced or eliminated. But here's the thing. There's also companies, and I've talked about this before, you may have seen the interview where Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, he talked about how President Trump should actually increase the tariffs even higher, because he is tired of Chinese companies ripping off his intellectual property rights, where they are taking items, let's say things like a Nintendo. They're taking things like an Xbox, their Xbox games or Sony games, and they're putting on little handheld devices, right, that you can plug into the TV and you can play 1,200 games. They're doing things like that. They're taking pretty much the Nike shoes that are made, pretty much making the exact same shoes, same colorways, same materials, everything, but not putting the Nike swoosh on it. Just putting a different Chinese knockoff brand, but it's the exact same product. Okay, we see that all the time. Lululemon, pretty much taking their exact item and just selling it as, again, Lululemon. Okay, or it could be a Rolex, or it could be an Omega watch, right? Sunglasses. This is what they're saying, is we need to make sure that they are not stealing our stuff. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. I do want to read something else to you. Look at this right here. This is what they're saying. It says, a social media account that is affiliated with the state broadcaster CCTV hinted that those tensions are thawing between the United States and China. It says, and I quote, "If the United States wishes to engage with China, there is no harm in China at this stage, and China needs to observe and even force out the true intentions of the U.S. side and grasp the initiative to talk and fight." Key words here. They need to force out the true intentions of the United States. What is our true intentions? Because initially what we heard was, especially when we were imposing tariffs on Mexico and Canada, was we had to pretty much stop the illegal immigrants coming into the United States. Okay, they did that. They did a very good job, and they reduced it by quite a bit. And then President Trump said, there's too much fentanyl coming across the border. We need to stop that. Okay. So the messaging hasn't been 100% clear. But then now the Chinese state media is asking, well, what is the true intention? Let's keep reading this. It says the account also said that the U.S. had taken the initiative to contact China through multiple channels in hopes of negotiating with the Chinese side on tariffs. President Trump said this before, that they're negotiating, but I don't think, based off of what we've seen in the past, that the Trump administration was negotiating with China. But that wasn't something that was happening. There were plans of negotiations, but now we're hearing that the Trump administration has reached out several times. There are potentially negotiations going to happen very soon. The negotiations that they're talking about are for all the other countries. Keep in mind, all the other countries have a 90-day pause until July 8th. China is currently seeing 145% tariffs. That's the issue. So we're going to see what happens moving forward. The one thing that we do know is that these tariffs are crippling many households across the United States. It's becoming harder and harder to purchase goods, food, services, because everything is going up. Even just today, Microsoft announced their Xbox are going to become more expensive. Yeah, the Xbox, which again, the Xbox was new years ago, not today. And now they're saying it's going to become more expensive. Yeah, that's where we're at. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But for right now, this is at least good news that at least there's a plan in place. It's going to be a process according to Basent. But the good news is hopefully they can get a deal done, which means lower prices for us right here in the United States. So we'll see what happens, but that's what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.